Okay, so basically all my scripts and tools you can download from my blog. And you can just download all my scripts as a zip file if you go here, or you just browse the directory. You can, if I sometimes mention a script like, hey, you can run this script and you see on a screen or whatever, then you can just, scroll to it and click on it, and you'll see what's inside it. Okay, and initially, the first time I presented this was actually quite a few years ago, but some things have changed, and we only have 1 hour plus a bit, so I'm not going to go through the whole material. So this used to be 1-day class. Okay, so I'll look into basically my own work environment and the script and some of the key scripts that I use every day. All right. So I will start from SQLPLUS, right? So because I still love it, I work the fastest in SQLPLUS. SQL Developer now is pretty, not pretty good, it's actually very good. SQL Developer is a graphical, interface. It can run Snapper and my scripts as well. So, but every day I still use SQLPLUS. And if you configure things properly, it doesn't have to suck. Because you all are familiar that you log into some Unix box, you run SQLPLUS, and then you cannot get the command line history, and it's hard to edit the commands and so on. Actually, this can be made easier, right? So if you still are on Windows, well, I'm a Mac guy now, right? But if you are on Windows, then don't use this old SQLPLUS. I don't think it's the Windows version of SQLPLUS anymore. I don't think it's even distributed with the newest Oracle client versions, right? So don't use this old SQLPLUS W, right? Well, since 11G it's gone, right? So if you are on Windows, you run SQLPLUS in cmd.exe, right? So basically this, right? So when I run SQLPLUS on Windows, when I happen to still use Windows somewhere, then basically I run cmd, which is the command line, right? And well, I run SQLPLUS whatever way, right? Because unlike the Unix SQLPLUS, the command line on Windows gives you command line history, right? So if you do select star from dual, you can get it back, right? And you press the up key, you get the previous command back, right? And I can run my scripts or whatever as well because I have installed them, right? So so don't use the old SQLPLUS, use the command line version, and on Windows you get good command line history and stuff like that. Okay. However, you may need to tweak a bit. So whenever I use a Windows workstation, then I kind of spend this 1 minute on tweaking the command line or the Windows command prompt. So basically, you just go to options, go to defaults, and then in the defaults you can set you enable quick edit mode, right? So then you can just go and navigate. Basically, in the quick edit mode, you can easily copy and paste stuff. You select something, and with the right mouse key, you hit the right mouse button, it copies. Now it just copied it into the buffer. And when you hit the right key once more, right, then you can paste it in if you need to do so, right? So again, if you don't have quick edit, then you would have to go to this menu and say edit, mark, and copy and paste, which is kind of useless in these modern days. And the second thing with SQLPLUS, the common problem with SQLPLUS is that it's not wide enough, right? So if you select star from video or session, or something, then it just doesn't fit onto your screen, and the lines will be wrapped, right? And for that, in SQLPLUS on Windows, or in the command line on Windows, you can say that the screen buffer is 1,000 characters, for example. So even though the window is narrower, the screen buffer is wider. So you see, so thanks to that screen buffer, I can like scroll left and right, right? So let's see if video session is still narrow enough to fit here. Video session is a bit too wide. Let's say if I query video process, you see, you know, it's 1,000 characters is enough so that it doesn't wrap, right? Anyway, so let's move on. So another thing is that on Windows you also can set titles, right? You see, there is a Windows command line command called title, and whatever you put into the title will become the title here of this window, and my scripts automatically set this. So you see, it may be a bit too small. Let me see if I can zoom. You see, I have set title here, so that every window I have has the username, the machine, or the connection connect string, basically where I logged into, and also the current session ID, and the process ID of the process, in this window, right, of the Oracle process which I'm using here. So I can say title hello. I said title hello, and now we have hello here. But there is a thing. So when I log into SQLPLUS, you see what happens. When I log in, then Oracle automatically, or SQLPLUS automatically runs a script of mine. The script is called I. I means like who am I, right? And this I script shows you that, hey, I'm currently logged in as system, and session ID is this, and database version is this, and so on. And I use this I when I used to do production support, right, some years ago. Then every time before I ran that command, which was dropping some index or creating or whatever, then I had a habit to just run I every time before I actually ran this script which changed the production database. And this I script actually issues the title command, and the title is set here. And the added benefit is that when you open the task manager or something, oh crap, so I have the fancy task manager, so maybe that's not a good idea. But when you do when you hit Alt tab, to switch between windows, you see if you have like 10 windows open, you see which window, from the title, you'll see which window you're talking about, right? You see, if you want to switch to the Dev12C database, then this is the window. Okay, so these are, this is nothing advanced. This is just stuff which makes your life more convenient. Okay, so how does SQLPLUS know to run my script automatically? Actually, there is a script called login.sql. So if you have a script called login.sql in your current directory, or in a directory specified by SQL path environment variable, then SQLPLUS always runs this login.sql script when you log into a database. So I'm in users panel, and if I say, you see, I have set my SQL path variable to c.tpt in the user preferences in Windows, and basically that's, if I do dir login.sql, you see in this SQL path directory we have something called login SQL. and this login SQL now actually calls two scripts. It calls init.sql, and the init.sql sets a bunch of things. It makes the line size wider, it sets the page size bigger, it turns off this tab spacing, and all this stuff. You can look into this. I have added comments that why do I do this? Why do I set the settings? I set array size bigger so I would fetch rows faster. And then secondly, it will call the i.sql, which queries, okay, who am I, who is the user, what is my current session, and then it runs the title command. Okay, and on Windows, again, thanks to the command prompt of the Windows itself, you can actually have command line history. You can have pretty decent command line history there. So I think I already showed you. Let me just pick something where I have issued more commands. The up key, when up and down key arrows, they just navigate between commands, and left and right, obviously you change it. So I'm not gonna go deeper here, so that's obvious, right? If you press F7, function key 7, right, this actually shows you like a more visual list of recent commands. And I think if you even press the first letter of the command, like S, then it just jumps through this, any command starting with S. Or if I press at key, now it jumps through anything with that, right? So if I hit enter, then it will run the command, F7 again. And if I hit the right key for some reason, then it doesn't run the command, but it gives it to on the puts the text on the command line so I can edit it before. Right. So before I moved to Unix, before I moved to Mac and started using these other tools, that F7 and command prompt, that was what I always used. Right. And there is even more. F8 is if you type the first few characters of the command and hit F8, then it will now scroll through, or it scroll through these commands which start with S. Right. Also useful. All right. If you already know all this, then it may be boring for you. And actually, in Windows, you have something called DOS key as well. This goes back like way into the history, right? But and you can run such a command that show me all the commands for all the history. What has been issued in this command prompt window for SQLPLUS within SQLPLUS exe, right? So, and you can show the whole history, for example. HA, show all history, or show anything which has dual in it, right? Just show history which has dual in it. Okay, so if you're still on Windows, I hope you appreciate that. If you're not, then I just wasted 15 minutes of your time. All right. So, what else? Okay. So this is now applies both on Windows and Unix or Mac OS or whatever you use. You see, I just showed you that hey, I can query read session, but hey, it's actually too wide, right? It's too wide output, right? So either you make the window even wider, or start selecting individual columns or whatever, or go to SQL Developer, which does, which works well with this kind of stuff. But one more option is this. Show me the output of this query in HTML, right? It's actually super simple script. All this HTML script does. Okay, so where is that? Let me just close it. All that this script does really is this. So it will say set markup HTML on. So SQLPLUS itself can generate HTML output since 8i, because there was a tool called iSQLPLUS for in a couple of versions. And then I will just spool this issue a spool, I will spool into a file with the HTML extension, and then I will just list the last command in my buffer, and I will run this command, right? And that's it. And then I will open this HTML file. That I will say that, hey, open this file.html, and Windows automatically opens the browser for me. Okay, so that's what I also sometimes do when I quickly wanna troubleshoot something or quickly wanna query some table, and I know it's gonna be too wide, but I don't care. Then I just run HTML, right? You run the command. You don't even have to run it, right? So you can, if you know that you want it in HTML format, you can just do it like this, right? And the cool thing now is that now you can run something like Control F, right? You can search here. If I know that this, whatever I'm looking for, had something to do with log writer, right? I just search log writer, type log writer in here, and here I find some log writer. I can double click. I can select the whole row. Well, it's not that convenient, but let's go on. So anyway, this solves the problem with SQLPLUS and too wide rows. Again, if you wonder how some script works, then just open it up and you'll see how it works, right? Well, what if we spooled the HTML data to a file, but we use a different extension? We just use XLS. It's the same HTML file really, but we will use XLS as an extension. Takes a bit to load Excel for some reason. I have the latest Excel. I just upgraded, so maybe that's something related. Let's give it one more shot. I'm just gonna run it. This is something, this is a demo effect. It did work before the Excel upgrade, but let me just do something simple. I suspect that what's going on here is that this newest version of Excel on Windows, it doesn't like having an XLS file where the contents are not like Excel format. The contents are something like HTML really. But that's why I also have something called CSV, which just saves a comma-separated output to a CSV file, and Excel should still pick it up. Let me just run the query. So let me show it on the Mac. So I'm hitting some issue here. So on Mac, I can just do a select star from $3 It's a bit too wide. I can just say CSV. Again, SQLPLUS just spooled the output into a CSV file, and then it told the operating system that, hey, open this file. And Excel is the program which opens CSV files on my OS, right? If I run this again and run XLS, it also works. However, the latest Excel on Mac, it says that, hey, the file format is different than the extension. It's an HTML file, but it's an Excel extension. Do you want to still open it, right? And I'm just saying yes. Right? And now the output even looks slightly more formatted, different color, because SQLPLUS by default uses these colors when it writes HTML into its output. So these tricks like HTML and so on, these only work, so conveniently when your SQLPLUS is running in your own PC, right? because what happens is that we are spooling. SQLPLUS fetches the rows from the server, wherever the server is, and then SQLPLUS spools the data into your local file, right, in your PC, if you run the SQLPLUS in your PC. So it's so easy to just tell the operating system that, hey, open the file now, and the browser opens it. So I'm not using some SCP or FTP to copy files around. It's the SQLPLUS who fetches the records from the database and spools it into my local machine, right? Okay. Yeah, Johan, I see. I will get to your question. So there is a configuration difference between Windows and non-Windows clients. So bear with me. So where is my? Okay. So anyway, so again, this is something what makes your life easier. If you don't want or can't use SQL Developer or things like that. And sometimes it's an easy way to just save some output, right? You save the output on your disk, and you can use it later on in Excel. And so both the first two options use this HTML markup option, but the third option is using something even older called set col sep is this, and then every column will be separated not by only spaces, but there will be a comma as well. Okay, so I already showed you how the title setting works on Windows, right? There's just a title command, right? But on Unix, or basically for Xterm, there is this syntax, right? So if you echo some special characters onto your screen and then you put some text here, this becomes your title, right? And that's what I use on Mac or Linux as well. So this works with any Xterm compatible terminal, right? Ravi, yeah, no problem. I mean, I got started, but I will publish the recording as well. So Ravi joined a bit late, so you will see you'll see the beginning as well when I publish the recording. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so you see, this is my Mac environment, right? And whenever I log into let me open a new tab, right? So this is a new tab, but whenever I log into some new database, you see it sets the username, the instance name, the container name if you're on Oracle 12c, and this is the session ID of my session, my own session, and this is the Unix process ID of the Oracle server process, right? So this is automatically set again by the I script, and for Xterm it's using this technique. All right, and by the way, it's worth mentioning. Obviously, on Windows, PuTTY is a really good terminal. But for my own purposes, when I research and work on my own databases and own servers, I use this terminal. It's called Terminator, but it's not the same Terminator what you get on Linux by default. It's another Terminator. It's another terminal called Terminator. So it's a pretty bad, name. But if you go here, you'll find links where they host it now. The reason why I do that is, you see, this terminal also has left and right scrolling. It's hard to find a decent terminal which has left and right scrolling on Unix, in the Unix world. And there's actually a reason for that as well, so that how the terminal capabilities are. So this terminal actually for best results needs its own term cap file on all the servers where you log into. So it might not be the best for your whole corporation, right? But for your own purposes, it's awesome. All right, so I think I'll skip some of this stuff. Output formatting. Let me just see. I think I have a truncate. Before I go here, basically, as I said, that on Windows you have a command for, on Windows you have slightly different commands for setting the title of the window and opening a file with a browser or something like that. On Mac or Unix it's different. So therefore, if you download my scripts, then and if you are on whatever platform your client is on, so that it's about your workstation or PC platform, right? So you should go to init.sql and uncomment the right things. So this is my MacBook, right? So that's why I'm using this Unix path variable. But if you're on Windows, you would have to comment this guy out and uncomment this, because on Windows it works a bit differently. And the same, you see, on Mac by default I have a there is a variable called start, which SQLPLUS uses for opening files, in my scripts. So if you issue open a file in macOS, then it will open the browser or whatever is needed, or Excel, depending on the extension of the file, right? But on Windows, there is no such command like open. On Windows, you have start. So again, on Windows, you would have to comment this out. And similarly, again, if your client, if the zip file, if you unzip or if your SQLPLUS runs on Windows, then you should uncomment this. So that's but yeah, read through the rest. You'll see. I have some other cool tricks here. So that should answer the question that when you run CSV or XLS in the freshly downloaded scripts, or from the freshly downloaded scripts, why did you get this error that, hey, no such command like open? This is only on Mac. And also you need to go to this i.sql. I think I have mentioned it in a couple of slides ago. You go to i.sql and search for title. You see, if you are on an X term, then the titles is set using this command. Or if you want a longer title, you can use this longer version or customize it yourself, right? But if you're on Windows, you would have to uncomment these two fields, right? Because we'll use the different command. Okay. So I hope I have shown you that basically with this, I mean, at least for myself, I have solved some of the SQLPLUS's problems, right? So that you can scroll left and right, either on Windows like I showed, or with this terminal on Unix world as well, in Unix world as well. If the output is still too wide or too big, you can use HTML or XLS to open the output in a browser. This is let me just run a query as well. Select. Right, I ran this query and now I can run HTML. Okay. So and the last big problem of SQLPLUS in Unix world is command line history, and that's also solved or solvable. You see, because this is I'm on Mac, and Mac is like a Unix machine, a Unix OS in the sense that and I have a command line history, and I can edit commands before doing anything, right? So and I do this using a tool called RLWRAP. RL means read line, read line wrapper, so that instead of running, you see, I don't like to type too much, but I have aliases for my own databases, which basically that instead of running SQLPLUS, in this raw form, I will actually run RLWRAP and then SQLPLUS. Right, and there are a bunch of options here. I'll show you what some of them mean in a moment, right? And RLWRAP is the sort of the wrapper which gives command line history for any tool. It's not only about SQLPLUS. I mean, I could use RLWRAP, RLWRAP rman or something, or something, whatever tool is a command line tool which doesn't have this functionality on its own, you can wrap it in RLWRAP. And thanks to that, we have command line history. It saves the history in this hidden files in your local directory or in your home directory. Okay, so and it also gives you tab completion. So, and there are two options. So I have created a Word file. So again, there is a let me show you that. So I can just say exec dbms stats, and I don't quite remember what this function name was called or procedure name. Gather something, right? And now I hit tab. You see, it completed a few characters already, but now it didn't complete it all because there are multiple gathers. So I hit tab again, well, twice in a row, right? And now it just shows me a bunch of options, right? And I see that, yeah, it was like gather, index stats something, or alter session set optimizer something. I hit tab and it shows me all the Oracle words what I have generated which have optimizer in them. Optimizer, right, dynamic sampling or something. So how does it know that? It's basically I have generated a Word file. You see, that's why I have this -f option. It's not like super, flexible, but I have generated a Word file which has a lot of Oracle's reserved words and data dictionary object names and then the DBMS package names in it. All the data dictionary stuff as well. You can use this Word file or you can generate your own. So I have a SQL script which creates it. I have it in SQL path. So this is where I have installed my scripts, and let's go to setup. So here I have a SQL file, and this SQL file just spools into this Word file, and you can whatever you wanna put there, but I just put the main data dictionary objects and stuff like that. So it's helpful. Okay, so you don't have to kind of always go to documentation or search what this table or procedure name exactly was. So and Sharat asked that is RLWRAP my own custom script? No. So RLWRAP is a tool written by somebody else, but it's I'll show you where you get it from, right? So because unfortunately by default it's not installed in most Red Hat environments and so on. So again, maybe you cannot put it. I mean, you likely won't be able to install it into all of your production servers, but you don't care about it anyway. So as long as you can install it to your own workstation or into a development Linux machine where you will be running your SQLPLUS from, right? Then that's enough. You don't have to install it into all servers. It's only a client-side thing. And by the way, so in the context of RLWRAP, you can, if you go to the setup directory in the zip file, so here I say that this is the command I use. I create aliases for myself, right? So you can just run RLWRAP and then immediately go run SQLPLUS command, right? But I have customized it to my taste. And one option what's on the slide as well is -I, which is pretty cool. So you see, RLWRAP can remember anything it sees on the screen. So, for example, let's say select last SQL hash. Sorry. prev hash values. Yeah. So so select prev hash value from middle of session. I wanted SQL ID. Let's say I'm running some sort of a script which shows me some SQL ID of interest, and now perhaps I see that, hey, I wanna do something with this SQL ID, right? So I can just say select blah 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 where SQL ID equals, and I can type a couple of first characters like 6y and I hit tab, it completes it. Or if I do 1-4 and I hit, well, now I get too many. So if I say 147 and I hit tab, it completes it, because it just saw this on the screen and it remembers that. So in addition to the Word file, it kind of puts anything it sees on the screen into this command completion buffer, I guess, right? That's what the -I option does. So these are all things which sort of, once you get used to them or start using them, they just make your work a bit faster. And it's sort of important when you troubleshoot something and it's urgent, or even if it's not urgent, but when your brain is really onto something, you don't want your tools slowing you down, right? So that's why I'm fairly I have invested fair amount of time over the years to kind of so that I could work fast, that I wouldn't have to kind of go and Google something or spend a minute figuring out how to get this little piece of information when I want to take the next step in my troubleshooting, right? So that's why I have so many small little scripts. So I'll show you where to get RLWRAP from in a moment. So I just demoed you the tab completion. So RLWRAP has various keyboard shortcuts. You can read this stuff yourself, but it's worth mentioning that you have Control R or Command R, or yeah, Control R, right? And Control R is reverse search. It's just like in Bash. In the Bash shell, you also have this same functionality because it also uses the read line library internally, right? It's built in there, right? But in SQLPLUS, you have to use the wrapper. But you hit Control R and you just type, any part of a command. Like I remember I ran a query with a monitor hint, maybe 5 minutes ago. I just type in monitor, right? And if this is the command, I can just press enter or right, to run it, or right key to kind of start editing it. Or this is not the command, I want the previous command with monitor in it. I can just press Control R again. You see, now it goes through all the commands which had monitor in them, right? And now when I press left or right key, I can just edit it as well before I run it, right? I guess one more thing worth mentioning is what I really like is Control A and E. So because when you have a really long command, instead of waiting until the cursor gets to the beginning of the line or end of the line, Control E goes to the end, Control A goes to the beginning. Because if the command is really long, it can get pretty annoying to to wait for the cursor to go where you need. But you can read about the other details yourself. So where to get it? Basically, there are multiple different ways. So you don't have to kind of compile it from source yourself, but on Red Hat, which you mostly will be using likely, you might need to add this this Fedora Enterprise package library into Yum and install it from there. Should be okay if Linux, if it's your workstation or a development machine of some kind, right? So I am usually not a fan of logging into physical servers with SSH and then running SQLPLUS locally from there. I like to have my own sandbox, either my workstation or some development server where I have all my files and all the scripts are in one place and they're all the latest version, as opposed to having to log into with SSH to all these different production servers and maybe having the latest scripts there or maybe not, and so on. But I know, of course, in some cases, because of policies and security reasons, you have to log in via SSH. Okay, and this is just for you know, you can so these are the same slides which and sorry, and this is the old location for the files. So you know, the newest is in my blog, right? This is just how to set things up, right? So I'm not gonna cover this. And as I mentioned in the email, so these are the slides which you get from SlideShare as well, right? And yeah, so I kind of jumped a bit too much ahead with the explanation, but you see, when you download the scripts, you look into init and ISQL, and you uncomment what's needed for your platform. Okay, so I think one cool thing to mention, especially in the context of having, you know, latest scripts available, is this: that just like you can run scripts like, let's say, df. It's a bit slowish on this machine. You know, you can run df locally, but you can also do this again since Oracle 8i. This actually may be an option if you know, if you cannot like synchronize all your scripts to the latest servers, and for some reason you have to use SSH to log into the server, and you cannot connect to Oracle, you know, from your own PC, then you know, if you have a trustworthy internal server for your, you know, script repository, you can run stuff from HTTP. Even FTP is supported in this, you know, most basic mode, but I don't think I have an FTP server set up, so it will hang, I guess. But yeah, please don't run scripts from in your production, at least, from my website, because, you know, I cannot guarantee that somebody doesn't hack it and put like a shutdown abort command into the beginning of every single script. Okay, so let's go on to the next section. Do you have any questions about this basic, you know, setup? Actually, well, one more thing which I need to say is this: SQL monitoring, or it's not monitoring, Oracle SQL Developer. I think it's an awesome tool, and it's free, right? You can download it for free. Nowadays, I think it can even kind of connect to MySQL and stuff like that. But I think it's a quality tool, and it's written by people who actually use it themselves, so that, you know, it's not clunky, and it's cool. And these guys, Chris and Jeff and in Oracle who build it, they, you know, have made it compatible with SQLPLUS, right? So this is one of the scripts that I will later on show. Just some Ash script, and you see I can run a regular script. There's something funky. Let me just clear this. Sorry, I was using a Command Enter, but I need to use Control Enter just to run this, right? So you can run the script output, you know, various scripts, and also later on we'll talk about. There's something I gotta maybe restart it, or there's something with my PC. Later on we get to the point where I run Snapper. I have to restart this SQL Developer. I think something is wrong with it. Basically, SQL Developer is another option, right? So which also solves a lot of the problems with command line history and then too wide output and stuff like that. I'll get back to this. Okay, I will take a sip of tea, and then let me go on. Okay, let's see how is it going. Let's try once more. Later on, I will soon show you the Snapper script which I use, but this script is it queries a bunch of things, and then it will output stuff to screen using the DBMS output procedure. So it's not like a result set of a SQL query. It's actually like a programmatically formatted output. And you see it also is scrollable left and right. Right, that's cool. Again, and in SQL Developer, you have to go to Preferences to set where your the SQL path. There is a place where you can say where your scripts reside, so you don't have to kind of have the full path name.